And they are also the basic ingredients used separately or in combination to produce artistic imagery. So pretty much every single thing you see, like my shirt, these drawings, your shirt, all the posters on the wall, they all have elements of art on them. And we are going to go through what each of those are. So we have line, shape, form, space, color, value, and texture. And all of these are on your worksheet, and they also all have definitions on there. Yes? You didn't get one? Oh, must have missed you. Right, so first, we have line. On our paper, it says a line is a mark with a greater length than width. And it said lines can be, and it has all of these different boxes. So, who can tell me what direction a vertical line goes in? Up and down. All right. So I have it right up here. So in the vertical box, we're going to draw some up and down lines. Following along. Then the next one, which way do horizontal lines go? Side to side, left to right, perfect. We're going to fill that in with some horizontal lines. Then next we have diagonal lines. Which way do those go? Corner to corner, all right. So whether that is from the bottom left to upper right, or upper left to bottom right, just going to draw a bunch of diagonal lines. Then the next one, we have straight lines. So those can go in whatever direction you want. If you want them to be vertical, horizontal, diagonal, just make sure they're straight, you have no bends to them. Okay. And then the next one is curved. So with mine, I did a bunch of little squiggles that'll fill up the box. But you can do whatever type of lines you want as long as they are curved. And then the last two, we have thick and thin lines. So it sounds pretty self-explanatory, but just in case you need a bit of a refresher, thick lines versus thin lines. Thick lines have a lot more weight to them. Thin lines are just super tiny. Everyone good with line? We have any questions about the different types of lines? Awesome. Easy crowd. Next one, we have shapes. They are two-dimensional. They can be geometric or organic. Does anyone want to try and tell me the difference between geometric and organic lines? Yes? Perfect. So in case you didn't hear him, he said geometric shapes are just like normal shapes you would find in geometry, and organic shapes are everything else. So all of the shapes you would find in nature. So on our paper, it says shape is a closed line. They are flat and express length and width. So the difference between a shape and a line is that a shape has a start and an end. A line keeps going forever. So for geometric shapes, like you said, that's everything you would have in geometry. Whether that's a triangle, square, circle, anything like that. And then organic shapes are little blobs, got different types of leaves, different types of flowers. So in those two boxes under shape, just fill in a bunch of geometric and organic shapes. Give you guys a second for that.
Is that a pine cone?
It's supposed to be a leaf. It can be whatever you want it to be. And then this next one, color. We're going to be on this slide for a little bit. So it says color is light reflected off of objects. It has three main characteristics. There is a hue, which is the name of the color. It's like red, blue, green, yellow. There is the value, how light or dark it is. So you can have light green, dark green, true green. And then you have its intensity. So whether it's super bold or it's really muted or it's pastel, that would be the intensity of colors. So on our paper, it says color is light reflected off of objects. All colors can be made from three primary colors, red, blue, and yellow. So in the three boxes that say primary colors, what colors are we putting in there? Red, yellow, and blue. They can go in any order. You can do blue, yellow, red, red, blue, yellow, yellow, red, blue. There's no specific order they have to be in. And I would prefer this to be done with colored pencil. So if you don't have that certain color, borrow from a neighboring table or use your own if you have any. Give you guys another second with that. Alright. And then secondary colors. So primary colors are red, blue, and yellow. What are the secondary colors? Green, orange, and purple. All right, so in the secondary box, we're going to put those three colors. And just a fun little story, something that if you're confused about what I wrote on the board, when I was in high school art, the color purple was a bad word. I wasn't allowed to use it. Because if we're talking about the color wheel, the actual color is violet. So if you notice over here, I have violet, or I abbreviated V. So whenever I would ask my teacher, I'd be like, excuse me, can I have a purple colored pencil? He would just walk away from me, ignore me, act like he didn't even hear me. Because when we're in art class, we should be using proper terminology, just like how with the all tool we were using yesterday. Miss Caravera was talking about how it's not the hole punchy thing, the stabby tool. When we're in art or in any class, we want to make sure we're using the right words. So those are the secondary colors. And then who wants to take a swing at what the tertiary colors are? Who said that? Red, orange. All right. So I have a list of them over here. They're all abbreviated. But if we have red and orange, what goes in between red and orange? Red, orange. If we have orange and yellow, what goes between those two? Yellow, orange. Yellow and green, you have yellow, green. Green and blue, you have blue, green. You have blue and violet, blue, violet. You have violet and red, red, violet, red and orange, red, orange. So I have all of the abbreviations up here, but you can also just take a look at this. And I would say the easiest way to make those colors is put the lighter color down first. So if you're doing yellow, orange, you want to put the yellow down first with colored pencil, and then lightly over it, put the orange. So it shows a nice blend. And this will probably take you guys a minute, so I'll give you another 2-3 minutes to get this all finished. And I know we're running low on some colored pencils. So you're not going to do half and half. You're going to put it completely over the other one. So if it's yellow-orange, you're going to put yellow down first, put orange directly on top of it. art room? Yes.
Decide on which one.
Yeah.
Oh,
Know
yeah,
what
yeah.
type you want?
Figure out what they need for what. Okay, I'll
Alright, and then just for the sake of time, we're gonna move on, but we're moving pretty quick, so you'll have time to catch up later. So next, after color, we have value. So it says value refers to the use of light and dark, shade and highlight in an artwork. And on our paper, says the lightness or darkness of tones or colors, white and black, and all the shades in between. So if you see on our paper, we have 0 through 6. 0 says white, 6 says black. So what do you think that means? What should we do with box 0 white? Correct. Leave it white. We're not touching that box. What should we do with box number 6?
Make it the darkest you can.
Make it the darkest you can. Then the easiest way that I have found to do value, do you remember how Miss K always talks about when you're using colored pencils or markers? You put your hand towards the back, put your pencil on the side, and draw very lightly, rather than going straight up and down and scratching all over the paper. Remember how she talks about this?
No. Wasn't here. Yeah.
Okay. So that's what we're going to do with 1 through 5. So you're going to very lightly, with all of those 5 boxes, you're going to do them all the same pressure, same shade, and then after you finish all of them, you're going to skip box 1, you're going to make box 2 through 5 a little darker, so it's a nice gradation. So if you can see, I tried to do it with marker on the board. It's kind of hard, but I did the same amount of lines on each one, and then every single box farther right, I started to add more lines to make it darker. But since you guys have pencil, you're just going to color it very lightly. And it should look like a nice little gradation value scale. Yes?
Wait, how do I do it? Yeah.
So what you're going to do is hold your pencil on a slant. You're going to do all of them with the same amount of pressure. And then, so what you do for box 1, do for all of them. So then after you do all of them, you're going to skip box 1, and then you're going to do the same thing again with each one. So you're just adding more and more layers of pencil rather than coloring harder. So rather than taking each box and adding more pressure with your pencil, we're just going to keep adding layers. So it's a smooth transition. Then if you're finished with value, raise your hand, just so I can see. Got just a couple of us? All right, I'll give it until 11:31 and a half. We've got a minute and a half. And if you are done, you can continue coloring on the color section if you didn't finish that. Or if you want to look ahead, don't go too far ahead. All right. So the next one we're going to talk about is space. Space is the area between and around objects. And there is positive and negative space. So if we were to look at this stool, the positive space would be the parts of the plastic I can touch. The legs, the seat, the underneath, all of that. And the negative space is everything around it. So all of the air around it. So the negative space makes its shape, makes its form, so we're able to see things. Another way that I can easily see space is by looking at the FedEx logo. We all know what that looks like, right? FedEx, the mailing company. So if you look at FedEx, I have it written kind of small over here. The positive space is the actual letters, the F-E-D-E-X. But between the E and the X, the negative space creates an arrow. So that would be the negative space, is the background. So if we're looking at my shirt, the positive space is the words and half of her face. The negative space is all the white in the background. So for the two rectangles, for positive space, what we're going to do is make three shapes. Any three shapes. I did a triangle, a square, and a circle, and then I colored the shapes in. For the negative space, I did the same three shapes, left those blank, and colored in the background. So that's what we're going to do next. Does that make sense? On the list, we have form. So when we talk about form, it has depth, length, and width, and resides in space. It is three-dimensional. So if we have a square is a shape, its form is a cube. If a circle is a shape, a sphere is a form. If a triangle is a shape, what's the form? Pyramid. Thank you. So for this one, since we already learned about value, it says forms are three-dimensional shapes expressing length, width, and depth. Shade these like the sphere. Yep, I've got those. Yep. Right, so if we look at our paper and we can see how the sphere is shaded, it looks like the lightest part is right in the center. So the middle of the sphere, there you go. The middle of the sphere is going to be the lightest part. And as we get farther from the center, it's going to get darker. So if we look at, let me make sure this is still recording. If we look at my can of LaCroix, say the sun. I'll just use my flashlight. If the sun is looking at it straight on, there's going to be a line, like the middle whole line going up and down. A vertical line is going to be the brightest part. And then as we get closer and closer to the edge, that's going to get darker. So again, I drew these pretty small, but we have a cube, a cylinder, and a pyramid. And what I'm gonna do, I'm going to demonstrate what the cube would look like. So here's the cube, right? Looks like the one on your paper. So if the sun is hitting this front square right here, this front side, the darkest edge is going to be this back one, and then this top one. So then we're gonna do the same thing that we did with value. So the sides that are touching the front, those are going to be our value number 1. And then all the way the back edges that I darkened up, those are going to be our value 6. So if you go back and look at our section on value, you can see that 6 is the darkest, 1 is the lightest, besides the white. That's how you do the cube. Then the pyramid is going to be the same thing. That front triangle is going to be the lightest. And you can see a little sliver of the side edge. That's going to be values 1 through 6. So think about where the light is hitting the front of it and how you would shade it. And then last but not least, we have texture. So on our paper, it says texture is the surface quality that can be seen and felt. Textures can be real or implied. So a real texture is anything that you can actually feel. So that would be your shirt, your pants, your hair, the table. Everything has a texture. An implied texture would be like this feather. Like you can, are we paying attention? So if we look at this feather, you can tell that it's soft, but if I were to touch it, it just feels like the whiteboard. So that's an implied texture, is that you know what this feather would feel like because of how it's drawn and shaded, but you can't actually feel it. So we have 7 textures to go through. I'm going to demonstrate 4 of them for you. Which 4 would you like me to do? And I'm going to have you guys figure out the rest. Yes? Woven. All right. I'm going to write them down. Woven. Rocky. Wet. One more.
Prickly?
Which one?
Prickly?
Prickly. All right, so I'm going to demonstrate those 4. So first one, we have woven. That is like a basket, like a picnic basket, an Easter basket if you celebrate that. So it'll be, it sort of looks like plaid or flannel, so everything alternates. You just have lines going back and forth, and they alternate. So you have lines going vertical, then horizontal, vertical, then horizontal. And then the next one you want is rocky. So I like to think of this, if you're looking at the side of a mountain, it's going to have a lot of jagged edges in there. You can add some different types of lines if you want to add some depth. And these don't have to be perfect. We're just trying to make it look like implied texture. So it's not perfect, it's not beautiful, It's hard to draw with a dry erase marker sometimes. Next one, we have wet. Again, hard to do with a marker, but all you would do is think about what things look like when they're wet. They get a little bit shiny, so you can add like a bit of a highlight right there. It's gonna have like some dark areas. It's gonna have some droplets on there. Just do the best you can to make it look like a little bubble or a little raindrop. Then the last one I'm going to show you guys, which is prickly. Think of a cactus, porcupine, a pineapple. Just has a bunch of spikes everywhere. And then you'll have time to finish the other three. Does anyone have any immediate questions about any of the elements of art? I'm going to have time to walk around. I'm going to give you guys probably another 10 minutes or so to finish this up. I'm going to walk around, answer questions. And if you could, round up all of your drawing mannequin papers, put them at the end of the table. Make sure your name and the date are on there. We're just going to get to work.